Mr. Speaker, sir, thank you for the opportunity to address this August House. I support the bill in terms of the increased amounts of 645. But, Mr. Speaker, and I'll also pick up from where the Senate has just left off, the question of the water pan in Changara, which was fully funded by the World Bank, and nothing happened. I took action. I got the people together, and we have been able to get the committee of the Senate to go down where Senator Beatrice is a member. They saw for themselves. And if they just walked across the boundary into Bungoma, they would see a sister dam of equal funding which is functioning. In Busia, it never worked, so we hope we shall get to the root of that. But over and above that, the World Bank sent about 200 million shillings to Busia in the past 2 years, 2 budgets. I've done a follow-up. In fact, the group I assigned to do some auditing just finished and gave me a report yesterday. And none of them is functional, but all the money has been depleted. The money is not on account, money has been depleted. And so, in short, I'm just saying that Busia is an economic crime scene that needs serious attention from the Senate. It's a total crime scene. Now, going back to the motion on the floor, the question of division of revenue, I support the figure of 465 billion, 1,459,673 shillings that has been recommended. But that's as far as I support, because it's an increment from on the last. The only reason I'm supporting that figure is that it's an improvement on the last allocation. But I want to go back to the fundamentals of revenue division. And there are 2 things that I would invite the Senate to look at in the law. Of course, we agree that Article 203 of the Constitution is very clear. If you look at sub-article 1, after addressing that when sharing this money, we should take into account national interests, provide for public debt, which is another issue that if public debt is top on the list of things, we must take care of, we must be very careful and pay full attention to the public debt. At C, they say we take care of the needs of the national government. But if you look at D, E, and F, they all address devolution. We must ensure, in fact the word in D is that they need to ensure that county governments are able to perform the functions allocated to them. That's the level, the kind of funding we need to give them. Then there is the requirement that we have to develop their fiscal capacity and efficiency. We have to go to look at their developmental and other needs. And when you go further down at I, we must work for the economic optimization of each county to provide incentives for each county to optimize its capacity to raise revenue. Now, on-source revenue is an area that's, again, heavily abused in counties. When you look at it, in my own county of Busia, and reports have even been made, but no action is taken, you'll find that you have got, they talked of operationalizing or computerizing revenue collection. But when you look at it, it's just some fraud scheme that allows them to collect revenue that doesn't get reflected and go into the county revenue fund. Now, what's more important here right now, Mr. Speaker, sir, I want to look at subclause 2 of 203 on revenue allocation. It says, for every financial year, the equitable share of the revenues raised nationally that is allocated to a county government, to county governments, shall not be less than 15%. Now, that is a floor that has been set, but the revenue must ensure the upper things. The 15% is just a floor that has been set. It's not a requirement that 15% goes to counties. The requirement is that not less than 15%, but whatever goes to counties must achieve what is declared up there. Now, when you go to clause 3, I have a strong feeling that this clause has been totally misinterpreted. And it is here, if you look at the approved revenues, when I look at my iPad on the approved revenues, it is said in under the recommendations, recommendation B, the schedule to the bill be amended to reflect the following. B, Roman 2, the most recent account of revenue as approved by the National Assembly as at the financial year, which is 1,920,434,085,078 shillings for the financial year 2021-2022. What we know is that the Auditor General has submitted reports for the financial year 2023-2024. We are now in the financial year 2024-2025. The audit reports were submitted, and these figures should be based on the audit report of 2022-2023, not 2021-2024, for the following reasons. Although the clause 3 of 203, Article 203 of the Constitution says that the amount referred to in clause 2, that's the 15%, shall be calculated on the basis of the most recent audited accounts of revenue received, comma, as approved by the National Assembly. We should ask ourselves in that sentence, what is approved by the National Assembly? Is it the audit report that's approved by the National Assembly, or is it the accounts, the revenues that are approved by the National Assembly? And if you go to Article 229, clauses 7 and 8, where the report is considered, Mr. Speaker, clause 7 says, audit reports shall be submitted, to Parliament or the relevant county assembly, that is 7. Number 8 says, within 3 months after receiving an audit report, Parliament or county assembly shall debate and consider the report and take appropriate action. There is no provision in that section where the National Assembly approves, or this House approves, or county assemblies approve audit reports. Mr. Speaker, audit reports are complete and final. If you want to challenge them, you can only challenge them in court. An Auditor General is an independent office, and their reports cannot be approved by this House. So, the interpretation of 203, clause 3, to mean that the National Assembly approves audit reports is erroneous. And it has denied county assemblies, it has denied county governments a lot of revenue, because we are now using a revenue of 1 trillion when the last budget was about 3 trillion. We should be talking of 15% of 3 trillion, not of 1 trillion. And Article 203, sub-Article 3, should be understood that the approval by the National Assembly refers to the revenue, not to the audit. And for the revenues that are approved by the National Assembly, revenues are introduced in Article 221. Because in Article 220 we are told that budgets of national and county government shall disclose revenue estimates of revenue and estimates of expenditure for those governments. And those are then considered under Article 221. And that's why they are approved. So, basically what Article 203 is telling us is that the budget, an audit of the annual budget, we should implement the budget as has been audited. Because once the revenues are approved, they are put into the Appropriation Act as the budget and passed by the House. There is nowhere else where the National Assembly considers revenues. So to say that the National Assembly approves the report of the Auditor General is erroneous. Because, Mr. Speaker, when you go to Article 229, if you go to Article 2, when you go to Article 229, you find that the National Assembly is given 3 months, and even this House, 3 months, and even the County Assembly, 3 months within which not to approve, but to debate, consider, and take appropriate action on an audit report. Basically, we are told that we look at the report and within 3 months make sure that accountability, those who have been adversely mentioned are held accountable. We help the county department, the county governments or the departments of the national government improve on their accounting systems. It does not in any way tell us that we should does not in any way tell us that we should be approving the report of the Auditor General. So, and even if you were to argue that the National Assembly is supposed to approve the report of the Auditor General before we can use them as a basis for calculating the 15% that goes to the county governments, then we must look at the, within Article 229, there's a very clear timeline of 3 months. The Auditor General is given 6 months from 1st of July to audit the books of government. Then he presents the report to us by 31st of December. Then we have 3 months as Parliament to consider the report and take action on it. Anything outside 3 months that are given in the Constitution is null and void. The National Assembly cannot claim that because it has not looked at the reports, it is sleeping on its job. It is now in 2021 that county government should also be waiting for the National Assembly to wake up. Recently, the High Court expressed itself on this provision in some case, and it said that you only have 3 months to look at the reports. So, why should county government suffer from lack of funds simply because the National Assembly is sleeping on the job? If the Auditor General has given them the report of the budget, the year 2023-2024, it gave that in December. 3 months ended on 31st of March. We should not be debating this report based on the accounts of 2021, which is 1 trillion. We should be debating this report based on the accounts of 2023-2024, which was about 3-point-something trillion. And that way, then we shall be fulfilling the need to ensure that county governments get 15% of their audited budget. So I'll be asking this House to consider, and the leadership of this House to consider revisiting that provision whereby they have misinterpreted Article 203, Clause 3, to mean that you have to wait for the auditor, for the National Assembly to do whatever it wants to do with the report of the Auditor General before it can apply on counties. And even if it was so, Mr. Speaker, we go back to Article 259, Clause 8. You ask yourself, how long would it have to take for that? Because that clause is said, even where the Constitution does not provide timelines, it must be done as quickly as possible. We cannot mortgage, we cannot delay the development in the counties simply because of that. So I'll be urging that we relook at that provision of the law, that we have allowed the National Assembly to suffocate development in the counties simply by being lazy and not being focused, not doing their work. let us demand that every year the report of the Auditor General after 3 months is unassailable, and that's the one that we shall use to calculate the equitable share that goes to the county. The other thing, Mr. Speaker, sir, is I've got a problem with Section 2 of the Commission on Revenue Allocation Act, Cap 428. Their definition of revenue is totally unacceptable. It cannot override what is in the Constitution. The Constitution is very clear at clause 2 of 203 that for every financial year, the equitable share of the revenue raised nationally that is allocated by county governments shall not be less than 15%. Equitable share of revenue raised nationally. But when you go to Section 2 of the Commission on Revenue Allocation Act, that's Cap 428, it defines revenue this way. It says revenue means all taxes imposed by the national government under Article 209 of the Constitution and any other revenue, including investment income, that may be authorized by an act of parliament, but excludes revenues referred to under Articles 209(4) and 206(1)(a)(b) of the Constitution. That particular definition needs to be looked at. Nobody gave the National Assembly the power, and by the way, these acts were made when National Assembly, before the Senate was formed. These are acts that were made before 2013. And so the Senate was not represented at that time. Parliament constituted only of one house. And so the National Assembly had a free hand to do what it wanted. And here, it's excluding revenue that should be considered in the calculations of what should go to the counties. I would urge, Mr. Speaker, that the leadership of this House takes upon itself to look at Section 2 of the Commission on Revenue Allocation Act, Cap 428, and looks at whether it is acceptable to exclude that revenue in circumstances where the Constitution says all revenue raised. Because if we don't do that, Mr. Speaker, we are going to end up with situations whereby, irrespective of the corruption in the county governments, which needs to be dealt with by law enforcement and to be punished ruthlessly, when you look at the percentages of money that go to the county governments, we have not been able to unbundle enough money to follow the functions that have gone to the county governments. So other than just costing, which is important, costing the devolved functions, we need to also look at the legal framework that was put in place by the National Assembly before the Senate came into existence, to ensure that there is equity and there is adherence to the law within that legal framework. Otherwise, Mr. Speaker, we shall continue giving county governments a raw deal in terms of equitable share. And so, in supporting this bill, Mr. Speaker, I reiterate that, if possible, this House, the Finance Committee, takes time and maybe gets proper legal assistance, and we have got very good lawyers in this place, to see how these laws can be amended or challenged to ensure that we use the latest audited accounts of the Auditor General. The question of approval by the National Assembly expires before the Auditor General comes in. The Auditor General, there's no room for approving a report of the Auditor General or rejecting it. We only implement it. I can see my time is up, Mr. Speaker, sir. I thank you for the opportunity. I support the bill with those qualifications that the committee seeks to anchor the current division of revenue on the accounts of 2023-2024, which have already been audited and which have taken more than 3 months since they were submitted in Parliament, and therefore the National Assembly has lost the capacity to do anything with them. They run as they do. And if it was even to do anything with them, it could only implement the report. It does not approve. It does not review. It does not do anything. It does not change a comma. It does not add a comma. It does not cross a T. It does not dot an I. The report is final. And that report should be used to determine the ratio of.
Senator Omtata, your time is up. Being an astute public interest litigant, I do propose that the proposals that you have made in your submissions can go into proposals that will guide the eminent legal minds towards asking even the House to seek for those proposals in amendments to the relevant law so that we speak on one voice. And so don't leave it out to the only lawyers. You're one such honorary practitioner by virtue of the public litigation that you're doing. Senator Peris Tobiko.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, let me take this opportunity to add